I am Jas Morgan. I am a newly hired acting assistant professor in the English department. I'll be teaching digital publishing in literatures and modernity, is our graduate program, and I'm really excited to teach this course. Typically, I teach Indigenous DH, which is Indigenous Digital Humanities, but I noticed the exciting diversity amongst our students during my first semester teaching in the graduate program, and I've changed it a little bit. We will be studying Indigenous literature, but I've made it under a broader frame of feminist publishing, and so we'll also be composing a working editors board for the duration of this seminar that we'll actually be working towards as the final project, publishing an issue of Guts magazine in partnership with them. I think that pedagogy is immensely important. I think that our students, of course, should be performing to a standard that could get them into English graduate programs. I'm also pretty adaptive. I mean, I think students are adults and they need to learn how to navigate their relationships and navigate these kind of institutions. I really am an advocate of students, and I focus a lot on experiential teaching. So I want, especially for our graduate students who might see the master's as a terminal program into a writing career, I want them to get professional experience alongside educational experience. And I don't know if there was another university that was ready for what I wanted to do. I really think Ryerson has this boundary pushing pedagogy and methodology amongst their new hires, especially, that is really pushing the discursive boundaries of the field, who constitutes a knowledge producer, who is a researcher, and the applied background, my field. I just really can't think of another university that really would have been able to situate that sort of professional experience alongside of my theoretical discourse. So currently I am working towards a research program to propose this new field called Indigenous Digital Humanities, or Indigenous DH. I really want to avoid this add and stir model that has been discussed in DH that is more diversity focused and just talking about forms of representation. And I really want to rethink the field of DH itself. How do Indigenous peoples do digital humanities? It's not going to look like our typical normative research around digital humanities. It's more informal. It's based in the technologies that are accessible to them, such as TikTok or phones on their camera. And I think this Indigenous DH, it's different than Indigenous focused DH. And this isn't necessarily a critique of Indigenous focused DH, just to say that it has been predominantly populated by white folks studying Indigenous digital worlds. And I want to think about Indigenous DH as folks producing knowledge who are Indigenous themselves, who are knowledge producers themselves. Leanne Simpson, who has really put forward this idea of an intersectional or a queer or trans or feminist form of resurgence. And I really think that is where my theory jumps off of in Indigenous studies. Moira Z. Bailey has been a huge influence on me. Her paper, I forget the whole title, but part of it is just Some of Us Are Brave. And it's really about the predominantly white focused perspective of DH, and just seeing there are so many women of color ahead of me in this field who have really carved out the necessary work for these critiques has been such an inspiration to me. The importance of what I teach always comes up when I teach young women of color and young trans and queer folks of color. I am so surprised to see them come to master's programs with no one having told them that they should have gone on to PhD studies, for instance, no one telling them that they have papers that are good enough to be researchers themselves. I think that equity and diverse mentorship really is still lacking in colonial institutions such as universities. And I think the importance of roles like mine are going to be in mentorship, and that I can see these dynamics that play out in the lives of young women and queer and trans folks of color, and the barriers that they face within these institutions, and hopefully can offer an avenue of mentorship to them.